Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to implement server-side tracking with simple analytics. This approach is perfect for tracking sensitive events like purchases, for example, or when you need more control over what you're sending or fetching something from the database that might not be on the client side. By the end of this video, you'll know how to send both page views as well as custom events to Simple Analytics directly from your server. So Simple Analytics is a privacy-first analytics platform, and most people will just need the client-side JavaScript. But today we'll just focus on the server-side API. So I've already set up a super basic Express project here. I just have an index.html with some client-side code. But let's jump into the Node.js script. This is where more stuff is actually happening. So Simple Analytics provides a straightforward API at https://simpleanalyticscdn.com/event. And we'll use this to both send custom events as well as just page views. So I've created this simple function, track simple analytics event, and it just takes some event data. And you can see we just send a post request to the URL that I just mentioned. Of course, all of this will be in the description. And we just put that event data in the body and just send these headers. Now, the important parts to note here are we say that we are sending the content type of application/JSON, but more importantly, we have this user agent header. And this is quite important because Simple Analytics will detect anything that comes from user agents that are too typical for this instance as potentially being bot traffic. So we're going to use a custom one as recommended in our documentation. So what I'd say is just call it server-side/1.0 and then just put your domain afterwards in this little brackets. And this way you'll know that it's definitely going to work. Okay, and so with that, we now have this request that we can send, and we have this function that just makes it much easier to deal with. Now let's walk over what kind of data is expected and some of these endpoints that I've created here. So this one's quite simple. We listen on /API/track event. We get a request, and from that body, we pull out the event and the metadata. You can see if I flick over to our index.html, we just send a fetch request to that, and we just put in the body that the event is button_clicked. So when we're sending this request to Simple Analytics, you can see that we have this type. Now this type can either be event for tracking custom events, or it can be page view if you don't want the client-side script and you actually just want to manage sending the page views yourself. And I'll walk through that in a second. Then we've got this host name. This is just the domain that you're sending this from so that Simple Analytics knows where to put these events. We then have this event field. Of course, this is what I populate from here. This is button_clicked, and this can be any string. And this just refers to the actual event that we're interested in. So this could be, clicked sign up, it could be clicked purchase, it could be scrolled 50% of the blog post, anything you'd like. And then we have this UA. This is the user agent of the client that made the request. So just before I mentioned that we need a custom user agent, this is in the header of the request going to Simple Analytics. This user agent is the user agent of the request coming from the client side to the server before making that request to Simple Analytics. And then finally, we have this metadata field. You can see that I use this logical OR because this is not always populated. For example, you can see here, we only define event. We don't define metadata. Metadata is just an object of anything that kind of enriches this event. And so that's actually it. Once we send this off, this should all work and we should now have events in our dashboard. Let's now go over tracking page views. So you can see down here, I have this track-page view. Now I'd recommend for almost every instance to just use the client-side script, but for whatever reason, let's go over this now. So you can see that we define the type as page view. The host name is still gonna be our domain. So wherever you're sending this from, the event we just define as page view, and the path, you can see that we actually get this from the client side. And you can see here, I just send the path from /demo page. So this is just where the user is actually sending this request from, where in the client side, routing that they are visiting. And then finally, UA, again, this is just the user agent of the client making the request. And we just send that through, same as before, to that same endpoint. So this one is trickier. The reason why I recommend just using the client-side script is that you then have to figure out, when you want to send this request. The client-side script just kind of takes care of all that, but here it is anyway. Now finally, let's just go over a super quick one. I'll just show you how we're pulling in some additional metadata from a purchase, for example. You can see this is all kind of placeholder code, but you could imagine that we pull a product ID of what they clicked on, the price of that product, and then maybe the currency that they're viewing it in. And so in the server-side code, you can see, again, the type is event. The host name is going to be where we're sending this from. The event, we're calling this purchase underscore completed. User agent, just like before. And then the metadata we're sending through, these are the ones we're getting from our body. So these are all the things that are going to enrich that purchase completed event with what actually happened and a bit more about the pricing plan that the user actually selected. So server-side tracking is particularly useful for mobile applications where you can't run that JavaScript on the client side, any backend services and API where you want to do events tracking, and any sensitive transactions like purchases that you might want to send from the server rather than the client, and any situation where you might want to enrich that metadata sent with the event with maybe a database query that's only run on your server to understand a particular event more. And so in the simple analytics dashboard, these server-side events, they're actually just going to appear alongside any client-side events that you might have. So you can see all the different user behavior and analytics in one place. One great advantage of this approach, of course, is that since the requests get sent from the server, they will not be blocked by ad blockers since they can't actually stop that request from being made. And so that wraps up the guide to server-side event tracking with simple analytics. You now have a reliable way to track events straight from your server. If you have any questions about implementing this in your own application, please drop a comment. And if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe for future analytics content. Thanks for watching.